Hey, how's it going? It's Hard Talk Radio. I'm your host, MrDeadman. And with us tonight is Mike Duke. How's it going, Mr. Duke?
Going good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's no problem. It's good to have you. And co-host in training tonight is Modern Medusa, the lovely Modern Medusa. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm lovely. How about you?
I'm doing fine. Doing fine. So, nihilism, guys. What's the point? Like,
Point.
why are we even doing the stream? Why did we even wake up today? Like, Mike,
right?
Duke,
I was just thinking, why am I alive?
Yeah, why are we alive, guys? God damn it, another day. I swear, I woke up today. I was like, man, I want to crank up some Linkin Park, take a cold shower, and slip my wrist. Just let it go. Can I do that? Can I do that?
You can do anything you want.
Right,
I like that attitude, Mike Duke. You can do anything you want. You dream it, you could do it.
Don't let anything stop you from achieving your dream.
Even if it's Russian roulette? What? Solo play? What?
Yeah.
Am I going to win this stuff?
Always better with a friend. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But nihilism, man. That's what we'll talk about here. Talk about the thing. Talk about other things as well. Wow, so redundant. Anyway, let's do the little introductions. So, Mike Duke, I start off with one question with all my guests. That is, who is your daddy and what does he do?
Who is my daddy? My daddy's name is Jimmy, and he's long since retired, but he worked at a paper mill as a foreman for over 30 years. That's what he did.
Wow.
That's what he wanted me to do, but I didn't go that path.
Oh. He wanted you to work at a paper mill, but now you're a horror author, so you're using paper. So that's even better.
Yeah. I took a long path to get there, though.
Well, tell us about that. So, who are you and what do you do? Well,
in my youth, I didn't want to do that, work in a building and, be, strapped down, chained down, all that kind of stuff, so that kind of thing. And I ended up becoming a police officer.
Hey, that's
and
pretty good.
I was a cop for almost 12 years. During that time,
pause. Can we talk about this now?
Sure.
Can we talk about people being police officers now? Is that okay?
It is in my book.
It is in my book too, but I'm just saying. On YouTube, I don't know if Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, she's cool cops, hates cops. I'm sure she calls the police when she needs help. I'm sure she does.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is that he's recovered and, confessed his sins as a cop and be reborn.
Is that how it works?
Should I apologize for being good at slamming people?
Well, I should apologize too.
But they were bad. It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right. It's good. Yeah, they were bad. You know what? And that's hard work too, man. Like, it's not easy apprehending people. It's not. They always resist. No one wants to be apprehended.
Nah, people fight, run. If they're high, they get some enormous strength and like a supercharge,
Yeah, PCP is real.
Yeah, crazy people are crazy strong a lot of the time,
Oh, yeah.
There's all kinds of weird stuff, but I did that. I was on a SWAT team the last 3.5 years I was there. I taught hand-to-hand combatives. I've been in the martial arts for like 30 years.
Cool.
That's a big thing for me. And then I ended up getting into the professional training industry. And for about the last almost 15 years now, I've been teaching military and bodyguards and private security and different stuff, high-speed driving, tactical driving, off-road driving, and some hand-to-hand combatives and stuff like that. That's my full-time gig.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
So I can drive it, drift it.
So you went from
all the fun stuff too,
So you went from that to writing. I mean, you went from something very action, very hands-on, a lot of adrenaline to writing. So what happened there?
I've been writing since I was in high school, off and on. I decided I wanted to be a writer in high school. We can dovetail in here. How did I get into horror? My sister. My sister was 6 years older than me, and when I was 13, she handed me Stephen King's collection, Skeleton Crew, and asked me to read the story Survivor Type. Because I read a lot of fantasy and some science fiction and stuff like that. And she was like, try this. I think you'll like it. And that's a crazy story as it is if you've never read it. But I read that. I loved it. I devoured the rest of that book. And then I was hooked on horror from there. So I kept reading King for a while. I read Brian Lumley's Necroscopes, Clive Barker, and eventually got into a lot of H.P. Lovecraft and cosmic horror stuff, and really enjoy that.
Yeah, and H.P. Lovecraft is another thing you're not supposed to mention anymore, I suppose. I don't know. I'm trying to appease to the woke, I guess. What am I doing? What am I doing here? No, every time someone mentions Lovecraft, someone always has to chime in. Don't you know he's racist? It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. Yeah, I know what the name of his cat was. Okay, I know he's racist. Okay, but Cthulhu's cool, and his stories are pretty good, man. And there was a set of foundation.
It's okay because it was funny.
Yeah,
he created a genre to a degree.
Very true.
He did.
Cosmic horror there were some other things before him too, that other people like the King in Yellow and some other stuff, but it really
was really nice. And of course, Poe. I said Poe. H.P. Lovecraft was influenced by Poe as well. It goes pretty deep, but it's like some authors. They have issues. They're human. They have issues. They have flaws, and Anyway,
some.
A lot of them do. A lot of them do. I mean,
a friend of mine just sent me a video earlier on Facebook Messenger, and it was this little animated thing about how everybody in the world is an asshole. It's
right?
Like we all are. It's like, look at yourself. Everybody does something. Everybody has some fault that's makes them an asshole to some degree. And everybody has faults, and people are influenced by the time that they're in. And I'm not gonna, overdo it for something that was, a few generations back. I think most of us could probably have parents, grandparents, or stuff like that have said some stuff, and
yes, I literally have family that's within like, I guess, second generation that are a generation behind that are kind of racist. But when I go to family reunions, are they good people to me? Yes, they are. Are they good with my kids? They are. There's some good things about them. There's some bad things about them. It's just I don't. Okay.
And there's degrees. My grandfather, he was racist.
Yeah.
My dad, he pretty much was more about what a person was like, how they acted, what they did. Did he use terms and stuff sometimes that would be unacceptable today? Yes. But when I was a kid in school and a guy on the baseball team that was black wanted to come down and fish with me in our pond, and my grandmother and granddad were about to have a fit because they were racist, my dad went down there and told them, shut the wood up, leave Michael and his friend alone, and put them in their place. So
look at that.
People have varying degrees of things that today we're like, oh, well, that's not acceptable. Well, in their time, certain things were, but I think you have to look at the overall conduct of a person and not focus in on, just one time frame or one area. I don't know.
I agree.
That's me.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Shit. And appeasing to the woke, shit, that's something I would never be able to do. Jesus Christ. I publish hard.
No.
Anyway.
They certainly don't believe in nihilism, man.
No.
Everything matters.
Everything matters to them. Everything does. So, okay. And that's the thing. So one of the themes in your work is nihilism. How did that come about? Like, is that from you? Like,
Actually, I am a Bible believing Christian.
okay.
I don't fit the typical, picture that people have for it. I'd say I'm probably more centrist, and I can offend people on both sides, with my opinions on things. I grew up in a very fundamentalist type church when I was young, and then, did my own studying, changed my ideas on things, and, moved away from that, as I got older. But I think for me, I try to put some aspects of my faith into what I write, but I don't want to be preachy or anything.
Okay.
So I try to create concrete examples of things in life. And then the viewer or the reader, they can decide when they're reading what they think is good and what they think is bad, as they go, right? So I was working on writing my first book, Low, for several years, which, write what you know, pretty much. The main character is a cop.
Okay.
It's a story about a cop and a lawyer, a missing person, and some supernatural entity that's come to wreak some havoc and take vengeance on some folks in this city, right? And I had gotten done writing that, and I was doing a lot of editing on it and submitting it and, rewriting and all this kind of stuff. And I decided at that point that I was going to write something short to try and just get my name out there a little bit and start, a little novella and start making contacts on social media and stuff like that. And I had done a lot of martial art training with a certain group of people that some of them were some hardcore nihilists. Okay. And when I say that, I mean consistent nihilist, or more like, or what you would, if you look up neo-nihilism, they kind of go a step further, but I think it's kind of, they're consistent. So in their view, they really do believe there is no morality. There is no right or wrong, no moral imperative to do anything. It is completely open to the person, and really comes down to who's more powerful, right? Might makes right. And if you've got,
so they believe it like, did they read Nietzsche, or did they not even know who he is? Okay.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
They actually did read a lot of Nietzsche, and I can shoot you a link actually for a short book that a guy wrote a couple of years ago on neo-nihilism, and just a little treatise. And it's pretty short. I think it's like maybe 80, 90 pages, but that guy really lays it out, the point of view like that. And so I think a lot of people in horror kind of come at nihilism from the like everything in life is meaningless, thing.
Yeah.
They, with the cosmic horror, it's okay. Well, we're all accidents, and nothing has purpose. Everything is meaningless. We're just blips on the cosmic scale. But then at the same time, they want to latch on to some kind of moral scheme, whether it's their subjective opinion about how things should be, or whether they have a system of beliefs because they pull from this or karma or, all this kind of stuff. And consistent nihilism, or the neo-nihilism, it's completely one or the other. Either there is a God and there is some purpose, there's meaning, there's absolute right and wrong, or there isn't, and none of this shit matters. And you can do whatever you want if you're strong enough. right?
See, in those guys, I'm curious if push comes to shove, like if you were to ask them certain questions, I wonder if they would be like, okay, well, this is right and that's not right. Like if they say, oh, there's no morals, anything is okay, I would ask them, okay, so what about if people try to exploit children? What if people like harm kids in a certain way that I don't want to explain? You know what I'm talking about. Like an 8-year-old or 9-year-old, is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
You know,
say, and from a Christian apologetic view, that's the argument they make. A Christian apologist would make is if there is no meaning and there is no morality and all this stuff, then you've got to say that things like that, that there's no absolute wrong to it, right? It's a subjective opinion wrong, right? Or maybe even a majority opinion that the power and might of the majority, tyranny of the 51% or whatever, gets behind. But you still can't say that it's absolutely wrong because there is nothing, there is no meaning, there is no judge above, that kind of a thing. And the neo-nihilists that are the consistent ones, they actually embrace the total no morality whatsoever, right? It's all subjective and you can do what you want if you're strong enough, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And some people that I trained with at one point, I would say that, like, if you had your apocalyptic scenario, like Walking Dead or EMP attack or something like that, when you see the groups in movies like that are, going about and, killing folks and taking their stash, some of these guys would be that type. They would be, and they would say that it's, a lot of time you'll see tribalism linked in with this, that the only people who are really important are the ones that are important to us.
Yeah.
So anyway, with this background and where I'd had debates with some of these guys, I decided to create a storyline that would embody that. So I had a character that I created that embodied that attitude to a large degree, but I didn't want to make it as black and white, as simple as that. So I also incorporated some aspects into what he was doing that would create this moral quandary for the reader, that they may feel pulled to agree with on some aspects of it, or the end result of what was happening, but not like the process, or not like him, or stuff like that. And It was actually pretty interesting when reviews started coming in. It was like this moral barometer based on what they thought of this character, Jake. It was like, well, and some of the people I knew, and it was like, well, I know this is the point of view you kind of espouse on things, and yet you said you like this part or agree with this part. That's interesting, because, it's like it's revealing something underneath that you've kept hidden, kind of a deal, a point of view, But
okay, and making sure that people know that this is related to your book Low, right? Your book Low?
That part right there is related to my first novella that I published called Ashley's Tale.
Ashley Tells? Okay.
Yep, Ashley's Tale. And I got such a good response, and I had a lot of people that wanted to know more about the bad guy, Jake. Okay. And so I wrote a little short novella backstory called Making Jake that basically was, how did he get to this point? And then I wrote a novel-length part 3 that picked up where the first one left off and brought in a bunch of other stuff, and really brought the where some people were kind of split over after the first one as to whether what he was doing was right or wrong, or or stuff like this. And some people were like, man, I love Jake. Jake was cool, And in the third book, I kind of, made the distinctions more glaring, and people had to, brought things to a head, where two totally different viewpoints and worldviews are kind of clashing over the morality issues of what they were doing and what was being done, and all this kind of stuff. So I think that series, the Ashley's Tale series, is definitely some of my best work. Book 3, it's Ashley's Tale, Making Jake, and then The Initiation is the novel-length third part.
I'm looking at it right now here on Amazon, and it has 5 stars, 4.8 out of 5 stars. Really, really well reviewed. 47 ratings, so people are liking it. So if you guys like what you're hearing, if you like the sort of like nihilistic sort of subject matter, definitely check it out. We'll definitely dig a little bit more into this. But Modern Medusa, do you have any thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, actually. Well, first, one of the things that you said reminded me of this concept from the movie Synecdoche, New York, which I haven't actually seen. I've just seen like extensive reviews on it. But the idea that like you only actually know for certain what is in your own head and what you see, and you have no idea what other people could be thinking at any point in time. So that's one thing that's really interesting to like think about as far as like, just people thinking one thing and then like doing whatever the hell they want. And then another thing I thought about was I watched a review of this movie. I cannot remember the name of the movie. I think it might have maybe been a foreign film, but it was by one of those YouTube channels, the one that like Ending Explained or whatever. That's not the name of the channel, but that's what they do. And basically the idea of the movie or the theme was that basically there always has to be someone who suffers for there to be good in the world. Right. So like yin and yang, if there's not someone in pain or suffering or miserable, then there cannot be the opposite of that. And I found that really interesting because like, and I've been watching a lot of Dhar Mann videos lately. If nobody knows who that is, just look him up. He is inspiration porn. And like he basically just like, is like, if we just work together and love each other, we can change lives. And it's like, okay, but the thing is that these people don't put into account, and social justice warriors don't put into account, that there will always be bad people in the world. Always. Doesn't matter. And that's why I'm afraid to have children, because I don't want them to suddenly murder me.
Yeah. They're going to murder you?
I have a lot of fears.
And that concept plays into something else that I include in some of my books, including the Ashley's Tale series, is I am a firm believer in the right to self-defense. To inflict harm on somebody trying to harm me or somebody I love, right, or a bystander, or something like that. But what you said about there will always be bad people, in teaching self-defense or in teaching people over the years concepts for recognizing when an attack may be getting ready to happen, which a lot of that also comes to looking at people and recognizing normal behavior, abnormal, what typically will fall into, recognizing pre-assault indicators or behavioral indicators, red flags, all that kind of stuff. And, we've gone through these cycles where, some people would be like, well, women shouldn't have to learn to defend themselves. Well, in a perfect world, yes. But like you said, there's always going to be bad people. I mean, I could say
teach your boys not to rape.
Right.
Yeah, it's not something you teach.
We shouldn't have to lock our cars to not get them stolen at the gas station, right?
Right.
Which I worked a case one time where somebody did that. They pulled up, left their car running, boom, guy hops in it, drives off. you know, and people,
yeah, that's happened to someone I know.
yeah, and people, well, most people with them
should teach the kids not to steal. Teach these guys not to steal. Come on, guys.
Yeah,
Come
people
on.
will go, how stupid were they because they didn't lock their vehicle? But no, I mean, you don't. It's just like with, you know, if somebody's a victim of a crime, I don't blame them, right?
Okay.
We don't blame, you know, the victim, but assessing whether there are some things that maybe I could do in the future that would prevent something,
Right.
is learning how to avoid stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when my daughter was in college, they actually, and I think it was in her second or third year that she was there, in the first 6 weeks, they had like 7 rapes and 1 murder. And I tried to get them to let me come up there and do something on avoiding violence, how to recognize, you know, the different things, particularly in, you know, recognizing, you know, behavioral issues with people that could indicate that there could be issues down the road, as, you know, as far as people taking advantage of you, narcissistic tendencies, different things like that, you know.
Narcissism is rampant these days.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they didn't want anything to do with it. They're like, no, can you teach men, you know, not to do this? I'm like, well, I could do both. We could do a class that helps men look at why they might look at women certain ways and become violent or different things like that. I'm like, but you're always, like you said, you're always going to have bad people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you have to, I don't say you have to, but if you want to protect yourself, then you got to prepare for bad people.
Yeah, it's being proactive. It's being proactive.
Always going to be there.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So in Ashley's Tale and in another short novella I have called Hate Inexorable, there's definitely a push at the right to defend oneself. Mm-hmm. And Hate Inexorable is another novella that I did that it's uber violent for one, but I wrote this I think I wrote it 2 or 3 years ago. But it tackles racism and looking at the problems from both sides of the coin. It basically, the setup is that there is a white supremacist rally, a counter Antifa protest taking place, and you have this couple that's a former SEAL and his wife that are biracial, have a 1-year-old child, and they're at the beach on Memorial Day, and their child has severe asthma, starts to have issues. They realize they left the medicine in the vehicle, and as they're going back to their vehicle, the parking lot where they parked at early that morning is now the location of this rally and counter protest. And so you have...
So the Proud Boys and Antifa are fighting in your book.
Yeah. And so they have to get to their vehicle to get the medicine because their child is starting to have major asthma attack. And everything goes south because both sides are pissed if you're not on their side, right? And so it goes from there. But that one has gotten a lot of good reviews too, and it's probably the most extreme thing I've written. There's definitely a huge amount of some brutal violence going on.
Does anyone get curb stomped?
No curb stomping.
I'll tell you this. I like I said, I've done martial arts and stuff for like 30 years. I teach people how to drive fast and tactically how to use their vehicle as a weapon. And I put all kinds of stuff into that story that I teach people to do that I can do.
So in that story, it's free training. You're giving training lessons for free.
There you go.
I guess
some free tips.
Like it's a discount because it's not.
Let's find someone to practice on.
What on Amazon? How much does your book go for? Let's see.
I think the ebook is like 99 cents or $1.99. I forget. The paperback's like $5 or $6, something like that.
Okay, all right. So for $6 or for $1, you can get some of Mike Duke's lessons on how to be proactive and be safe. And it's coming from some guy who he used to be a cop, but he also used to work on the SWAT team, so he knows.
Yeah,
he knows. Man.
Hey, MrDeadman.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I go grab another beer because I just found out mine is flat?
Go grab another beer. Flat beer is a crime. That thing's abysmal.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is unacceptable.
Go grab another beer. I like that she called me MrDeadman. That's co-host material right there. Okay, co-host in training. Though, if the other guy comes back on, what was his name? The other co-host. Shit, I don't know. Beowulf. His last name was Beowulf. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't want him to call me Mr. Deadman. You can just call me Jesse. That's fine. So anyway,
it's definitely one of my favorite books of all time. Though
that is
Beowulf.
That is a classic. That is. All right.
I probably reread that book more than anything else.
You know, there's so many things you kind of glossed over when it comes with nihilism that we can get into. Is like the theme of nihilism of that. What's the point of doing anything? Why are we here? I mean, you see that a lot in like you said, cosmic horror, Lovecraft horror, and stuff like that. Because it's kind of like in those books, you have the stories you're dealing with like elder gods or the old ones, ancient ones, or whatever that like any time could just destroy everything. Any time could. That your existence is nothing.
Yeah.
You know, you're just there.
How much do you feel nihilism and existentialism intertwine?
I think they're a lot alike. I think nihilism kind of induces the existential dread, right? Like, have you ever seen that meme where it's just somebody like sitting there, like, don't let yourself be overcome by the existential dread or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
I think the ideas of nihilism that everything is random, everything is meaningless, no purpose, all this, I think that induces that existential dread kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I've picked up some stuff. Oh shoot, I'm drawing a blank right now. I
thought you were gonna say I'm drunk.
Nah,
I think the only one drunk on the stream right now is me.
He writes a lot of stuff that's very nihilistic and existential dread. People talk about him a lot. He's a modern author. Good Lord, what's his name?
Mr. Existential Man.
Yeah. Modern author talks about existential.
It'll probably come to me here in just a little while, but when people start recommending like cosmic horror and stuff like that, a lot of people recommend him because they say his works are so full of that existential dread, aspect. But I think that's definitely, I think probably the more popular aspect that you see in literature is the impact that those realities, have on our feelings of meaningless, pointlessness, why bother, why struggle, and all this kind of stuff. Looking, why look for purpose, or I mean, ultimately, I think people are still. I mean, people search for purpose, right?
And let me ask you
even if
as a Christian,
they'll assign purpose, right, from their own subjective point of view and desires, and things like that. Even if nothing else, I don't think we can escape the concept. Even people who feel existential dread, it's at the loss of purpose that they want.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Let me ask you this: as someone who's a Christian, I'm also a Christian. Well, sort of. I struggle with that stuff. Have you ever wrestled with the idea that maybe our concept of God, your concept of God, is just a kind of a cope on nihilism, and that maybe that God doesn't even exist, and that there is no real purpose behind all that? It's just
So here's my thing.
I know it's pretty big.
I think I would probably would have struggled with that more if I hadn't been exposed years ago to a couple of different types of apologetics. The argumentation for existence of God, but it was opposing worldview type stuff, and so. Some people would call it worldview apologetics. Some people would call it presuppositional apologetics. And it kind of breaks things down to on more of a philosophical level, And the arguments from morality, like you were mentioning earlier, right? With somebody who says that there is no morality, or from the same point of view for me, for somebody who says that there is no absolute good and evil, no absolute right and wrong. It's like, how can you not say that at any time, anywhere, that like the abuse of a child is not absolutely wrong, right? Because if it's not, then there's nothing authoritative in the Declaration other than going back to might makes right, and saying, the will to power. And so we have a majority opinion here with the power of the people behind it. And so now it's wrong, right? But what if down the road that changes, and then it's okay. So it wasn't absolutely wrong, right? And so part of that presuppositional apologetics, they came at things from a couple of points of view. In the morality point of view of, looking at things has always, I think, kept me rooted. That even when I went through periods of time when I struggled and doubted and stuff like that, or even things happening in my life, which have gone on over the years, where I'm like, what the hell, God?
Right? What's going to happen?
Why is this and this and this and this happened to me and to my family? Or, why have we had to go through this? Why am I in this, situation? And even though it's like, I don't understand, and, you feel like Job or something, not knowing why things are going on, or, understanding why you're suffering or things like that. I think those lessons and those beliefs that got instilled to me through that presuppositional apologetics really just rooted me in that I believe in God. I may not always understand everything. I may not always agree with other people in the church. I haven't been to church the last few years. I got really ticked off with a lot of people with the way that they were just like worshiping Trump and everything without getting all political. I hate all the politicians. I hated both sides. I didn't like any of them.
I can agree with that.
Election, I didn't like any of them. This election.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm pretty centrist, and I just don't trust any of them. But it was just like, you people are not even making sense as far as your what you believe as far as your Christianity with the Bible. It's like not tracking with this, Trump worship, type of thing. So I may disagree with a lot of people around me in the church at times. And I may have trouble, understanding what all's going on or why it's happening, but I still believe there is a God, and I believe there are absolutes that point me to, that there is something more. Even if you just want to say intelligent design, some authority in the sky, that will judge, something. I hold on to that.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Go ahead, Medusa.
So hypothetically, if there were a church, which basically pushed and celebrated the ideas of nihilism under the guise of Christianity, what would you think about that? Because I personally know someone who's going to a church right now who basically, and I'm not saying they're the same, or these people are the same, but they literally sound like they're taking stuff from the LaVeyan Satanism handbook and like saying that they're Christian. So what do you think about that? Like, oh, you can do anything you want as long as you ask for forgiveness.
Oh Lord, one of those, huh? Okay. That there are certain people who have gone over the years, especially TV, TV evangelists or TV preachers or stuff like that. And there was one guy who I don't want to insult anybody, but I want to say it was Charles Stanley, who was on TV all the time back in the 80s and 90s, and stuff. But his opinion was the once saved, always saved, and that if you filled out the card, walked the aisle, and did the duty, then anything after that you did was forgiven. Didn't matter how horrible a person you became, or stuff like that. So that kind of sounds like a little bit like what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Protestant church I've been to once. I don't know. And someone in the chat mentioned, aren't you just talking about Catholics because you could just confess your sins? Ooh, maybe I don't know. Is that what you're talking about? You talking about Catholics? I mean, they can just confess their sins, right? They commit a sin.
I'm pretty sure they call themselves a Church of Christ, which doesn't make sense to me. That sounds like they just kind of came up with it.
See something like that, it's probably going to be some kind of non-denominational.
Yeah.
Possibly charismatic Pentecostal. That's what I grew up.
Okay.
I grew up from age 3 to like 27, I think it was, before I completely changed my mind and went somewhere else. But I grew up in a charismatic Pentecostal church, speaking in tongues, people.
I was going to ask you how you felt about that.
Out, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I
witnessed that once.
Yeah. It's if you've never been around it, it will like weird you out, man. I grew up around it, and it's like I understand people's points of views, even if I don't agree with them. Because I grew up in it, I understand what their thought process is, and stuff like that. But yeah, that is it is weird stuff. But yeah, a lot of the time when you see these Church of Christ or Church of this or stuff, and they're not connected to like Baptists, Presbyterian, Methodist, Catholic, stuff like that, they're most likely non-denominational, and there's a good chance, especially if you're in the South, good chance it's going to be some kind of Pentecostal, charismatic, type of leaning. Not all of them, but
that's interesting because the one I'm talking about is in Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah,
there's some funky people up there.
Up there too.
Oh yeah.
That sounds like an interesting church. I mean, there's some people who make a religion out of worshiping the ass of a woman. That's a church, or at least they're trying to.
I was going to say marijuana.
They're trying to make that a religion. Forget what it's called.
It's already an idol that we, love to adore. So I mean, might as well go.
Is it just like a gold mold of Kim K's ass that they worship
instead of the golden bull?
Let's see, the Church of what's it called?
Oh God, I don't want to be baptized in ass.
You got to be baptized. A donatology. A donatology.
Oh God.
The Church of Adonatology. Worship women. You worship the ass. I mean, okay, no. Well, let me ask you this though, because try to be I guess, neutral on this, trying to be. I mean, it sounds like the purpose of a higher power, religion here, gives you a sense of purpose. Now, what if someone really believed in the church of ideology, Adonatology, whatever, worship the ass, and I don't know how they get the morality from that or whatever. Maybe they get the I'm gonna hustle, I'm gonna get on some Bitcoin, get some Dogecoin, get some Shiba coin, get some dead coin, and make bank. I don't know.
Well, I've seen some videos recently on YouTube because I've been looking at more stocks and cryptocurrency and stuff like that. But there's this one guy who does these videos for, for investing and stuff like that. And he's like, remember, guys, he's like, don't follow after the women. Follow the money. Follow the money, and eventually the women will follow after you.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
I was like, well, you're feeding into something there that certainly there's a stereotype there that runs true, but that's not for everybody.
Well, it's a stereotype. But, I mean, women do like money. I mean, people like money. People like money. Hey, if I could be I guess a fuckboy to some sort of a queen, if I wasn't a married man with kids, I suppose I would take that life. I have no idea. Ask me if you ask the 20-year-old version of MrDeadman, he probably would say yes. Sign me up.
I did some bodyguard gigs about 10 or 11 years ago, and I can definitely say that there was a couple of people that were not attractive men, but they had the super hot girlfriends that were hanging with them, and it's like they were very rich.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Someone in the chat.
That works for some people.
And they were nice girls too. I mean, I got to hang around and talk with them too. They were really nice, good folks. But I mean, some people's, I guess, motivations for security sometimes override other things, and that can be that you can see that in different areas of life, not just men and women or whatever, but the desire for security can overwhelm our good senses.
That's right. Someone E.T. Templar asked in the chat, what if the ass worshippers become terrorists? What? They're gonna blow up stuff for ass? They're gonna work for ass?
You're in a mall trying to shop, and all of a sudden you hear that giant echoing fart sound, and everything gets fucked.
Like
that's terrorist.
That's bad. I think there's a church for all kinds of stuff out there today. If you go looking online,
right?
You'll find all kinds of stuff.
Booty Jihad. Okay. Now, all right, Mr. Duke. What is your favorite horror movie?
The Thing, 1982 version,
which is pretty good for this topic of nihilism, because I mean, being stranded there in Antarctica by yourself, that's already a good setting to be like, why am I here? This is suffering. I mean, it's a frozen wasteland.
Yeah. I think it focuses in by the end too on the other aspect of nihilism that I don't think we've kind of hinted at it, but it really plays into cosmic horror and stuff with entities like Cthulhu and interdimensional beings that are so far above us, but it's that aspect of helplessness.
Yeah.
Right?
Dude.
That what can we do? And in the movie, near the end, the character Gary, he says that when they get to the point where the thing has ripped out the generator, and he's like, it's gone, McCready, it's not here anymore, and it's like, well, things are going to be 110 below here before we know it, and this, that, and the other. And he's like, what can we do? What can we do? right? And there's cosmic horror plays into this definite, deep, dreadful sense of helplessness in the face of everything that's you're being confronted with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think The Thing really hits that home for sure. And I love the other thing that I think a lot of people like about The Thing so much is the total feeling of you can't trust anybody.
Trust anybody.
Yeah.
You can't trust anybody.
Even yourself.
Yeah. Interestingly, McCready tells Blair in one scene back then, he hands him the bottle of booze and he's like, trust is the hard thing to come by, Blair. Nowadays, he's like, I tell you what, trust in the Lord. And he hands him the bottle of liquor, but
was that the last scene? Was that the ending scene where he hands it to Charles?
No, that's a different one. That's when they lock Blair up and after he freaks out and he's destroys the helicopter and the comms, radio equipment and stuff, and they tackle him, they lock him in the tool shed, and that's where that conversation happens. But even at the end, there's this, neither one of them are really sure whether the other one might be the Thing now, and there really is nothing they can do. It's like, well, let's just sit here and see what happens, because there's nothing they can do. They're helpless,
That's it too. Absolutely helpless. They could pray as much as they want, but what's that going to do? I have no idea.
Sometimes your fate is sealed, motherfucker.
Yeah,
but that's definitely is a theme in a lot of cosmic horror, is that helplessness. I think you definitely feel it in a lot of H.P. Lovecraft's mythos stuff, and a lot of your more modern day cosmic horror writers, you'll feel it there too. I tell you, I'm gonna plug a friend here, but if you haven't read William Holloway and you like cosmic horror, then he is one to read. I've enjoyed everything of his that I've read so far, but he's got 2 books out in this series so far called The Singularity Cycle. The third one, I think, may be coming out by the end of the year, but the first 2 you can actually read in either order, because it's kind of like 2 storylines that are gonna, shadow each other, and so you could start with the Immortal Body and then read Song of the Death God, which is the order they came out in, or you could actually read those 2 in either order, and then after that you'll have to read the rest of them in order. But Immortal Body was solid, it was good, but Song of the Death God is probably in my top 3 books over the last, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years.
Okay.
It is a phenomenal read.
All right. I'll definitely check that out. Song of the Death God sounds really good. But going back to The Thing, you can't even trust the dog. The dog in the very beginning. No. You can't even trust the dog. He was
right. I'm a dog lover, man.
Man, I like how it opens, like you see some crazy lunatic on a helicopter shooting at a dog, and it's like, don't shoot at a dog. I mean, as Americans, we're like, no, you don't shoot at dogs. Like dog, especially there. Those dogs are trained to help. They're trained for a purpose. It's like, oh, but it's the dog all along. The dog was it. Oh man.
Yeah, they have just some of the freakiest practical effects.
Yeah,
man.
They did.
The dog,
I love it.
With the head peeling open and the falling out and the tentacles and tongues and just crazy stuff.
My child mind changed that whole scene so much to where it was almost unrecognizable, and I'm like, I think this is what I watched. Oh.
And the blood test scene is my favorite.
I like that a lot.
Horror movie scene ever. And the thing when Palmer thing, goes up, comes down, head splits open, and just got windows up in the air.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that whole scene. And then it ends so funny too with Gary, going, I know you cowboys have been through a lot, but I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch.
Yeah. And see, it was like, was he infected or was he just a bitter old man? Oh, he was infected. It's like you couldn't tell. You didn't know. Mom's Ravioli asked in the chat, have we seen The Void? I have not seen The Void. Have you seen The Void?
Yes. Actually.
The one where the guy dies?
I went to a small
that's Enter the Void
theater up in Richmond, Virginia to see it at this little small screening when it came out. It has some great practical effects. It has some really weird, cosmic horror stuff going on, tentacles and weird things. There's actually this dude who has been in a few movies now. He was in the Hellboy reboot, and he played the Baba Yaga witch. All right?
Okay.
Witch.
Oh,
you know how she walked all backwards on her hands and stuff.
Yeah.
He's a contortionist. And he played one of the first things I think he did in the movies was The Void, where he's one of these creatures in one scene that stands up, up on all fours, and his head's upside down, and he's all twitching and walking backwards and all this weird stuff. It's all freaky. But you can look him up. He's done some stuff, interviews on some, late night shows and stuff like that. And he's done some wild stuff, but he is a crazy contortionist. But the movie is good. I liked it. I was hoping I would love it. I didn't love it, but I definitely liked it. I thought it was solid and it was good. It just didn't quite go over into the love it level.
I haven't seen it. Does it compare to the Thing?
It is nowhere near as good as The Thing, but it is definitely good and worth watching.
Okay.
The guy who I'm getting him mixed up with somebody else. I was thinking that he was in the Americanized version of Being Human, but I think I might be getting him mixed up with somebody else. But the main actor, I thought he was good, and there's a lot of secondary actors that do a good job. If you've ever seen an older movie called From Beyond, they kind of do some nods to that near the end. But I'd like to see him do a sequel, and I think they left it where you could potentially pick it up and run with it to some degree.
Okay.
But I love that kind of stuff. I love space horror. Aliens, Event Horizon.
Definitely with those, you're gonna get a lot of that existential nihilism sort of feel, especially with the Alien and then Event Horizon, because you're dealing with forces that are beyond your control. You can't reason with. You don't understand it. It's you're helpless.
Even the Blob. Going back to more classic.
Someone told me that shit was real when I was a little kid.
The Blob? It is real. Yeah. It's real. It actually happened.
Why are we all here? There's just a blob consuming the earth. One thing I wanted to mention is that I have had nightmares about space and aliens since I was a young child.
Oh, yeah.
And at first it was mostly aliens, which I'm not even really that scared of aliens. It's just, the unknown factor. So I would have reoccurring dreams of aliens that looked like banana slugs, chasing after me. And I also had a dream, I want to say about a year ago, where I basically was in a house and it turned into Zathura, where I look out the window and there's just like a tornado of space in the sky,
Dude,
and I'm
that's
looking
crazy.
outside like, oh no! And like, I want to paint it one day. Yeah. Oh my god, it scared the shit out of me. I woke up like my heart was beating so hard. I was like, that was fucking terrifying. I never want to be in that situation again.
I was 13 when I saw Aliens in the theater, and it didn't scare me, but it did impact me. And I had nightmares for about a month. I kept dreaming that I was one of the soldiers and we were being overrun, and I would wake up in a sweat, that kind of a deal. But so, not as bad as when I was 9 and I got to watch Creepshow. And the last story in Creepshow with the roaches that bust out of the dude. Dude, I'm
so glad I didn't see that.
For like a month for that one. I mean, bad.
Man, I had the Creepshow comic. The Creepshow comic was pretty bad too with the roach one. Yep. Dude, I did not like that story. I don't like, especially to this day as an adult.
It was some good effects. I'll say that. It was nasty.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned practical effects with the thing. What are your thoughts on like CGI?
I think it has its place. If you can do something with practical effects, I think that's probably usually going to be a better bet. But I think CGI also provides where, particularly, I mean, obviously space and stuff like that. I mean, you could never do Star Wars justice or, stuff like that with space combat and ships and everything without CGI. And there's certain, movies where you're doing these large scale, things like, say, The Mummy, right? Where the sand rises up and you've got the face pushing through. And I mean, that's cool. It looks badass, but you could never do a practical effect for that. Right?
Oh, that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. When the scarab went under their skin. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I pooped a little.
But if they can do a practical effect, it usually, like, even like the old versions of Star Wars, when they use practical effects, like, for the models, like those ships, the lighting looked just right. It looked right. It looked like it was there because it was there. It was an actual prop. Then when they put in CG, it's like, wait, that thing looks dated. That thing looks dated even for now. What?
Now, I like the fact that sometimes CGI enables you to do much more active, like fights or combat or chase and, sequences or stuff like that with monsters than costumes a lot of the time. Like, I mean, there was very little for a long time with like werewolf movies where they were really being active. Even Underworld with its cool practical costumes and stuff, you really didn't see them really going at it, fighting, that much. It was a lot of more localized staged movements, and stuff. But then, and I know there's a lot of haters out there, but Van Helsing, right, with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
The fight at the end between him as the werewolf and the Dracula when he's goes full monster was badass, man. It's like they are tumbling and jumping and leaping and scrambling and scratching and slamming, and it's like at that point, you definitely couldn't have done that without CGI. Now, recently, there is a werewolf movie. If you go and you look at the, like the back, little featurettes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's, and they show you how they did. Yeah, hold on. I'm going to try and locate it real quick.
Was it called Where? Which movie? Was it out this year?
It's
or last year?
Yeah, it came out either the very end of last year or early this year.
Like High Moon?
No.
Among the
Hold
Shadows?
on.
What do you mean, the David Stay werewolf? Maybe?
I will find
Werewolf?
it. I'm pulling up my Voodoo account. I'll find it real quick. Oh, there we go.
Not-
The Wolf of Snow Hollow.
Okay.
The Wolf
Okay.
of Snow Hollow. They did a practical suit for that, and the guy was really able to move well.
That's cool.
Mm.
That's good when you can do that.
And it looked good. The suit, it looked good, and he was able to really move dynamically. They show him like practicing when they first started making the suit, and he's this really tall, lanky dude. But he's like down on all fours and scrambling a little bit, and moving around, and so yeah, I think even some of the practical effects stuff now, suit wise, is kind of getting
It's getting
a little
better.
bit, I guess, a little more streamlined where they can be more agile and mobile.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know,
I got to
stuff
check
like
out.
that.
Pan's Labyrinth was amazing with that shit.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought Dog Soldiers was pretty impressive for its suit. Still, the wolves were kind of stiff. They weren't really moving as much as they.
But they looked
Really-
great.
They
They
looked great and they were practical.
I love that movie.
That movie is good.
Can you imagine Twilight with practical werewolf? Like one of the, it looked like what is it called? Never Ending Story. The big black wolf. Just a bunch of those.
Now, I tell you what
That'd be
would be
terrifying.
interesting is you take these companies like Boston Dynamics with
Mhm.
these advanced robotics like the dog ones and stuff,
Yeah.
and at some point put a suit on them and use them for practical effects. That would be, I think you could come up with some crazy stuff. It would be expensive, but I think down the road we might, you could see something like that could lead to some really wild creature feature stuff.
Yeah.
Good. That would be fun. That would be fun. I want to see them do that. Now, we're kind of getting towards the end here. Now, Mr. Duke, what are you working on right now?
Ooh, I am working on a space horror trilogy.
Ooh, a space horror trilogy. Okay.
Yes. So I've written and edited book 1. It's pretty much just about ready. I've done the rough draft for book 2, so still got to do editing, rewrites, a little bit of rewrites and stuff like that. And I'm working on book 3 right now, and I want to try and pretty much get them at least almost done, so that I can do like kind of a rapid release, like every couple of months, release them. But actually, I'm going to try and turn my phone here and show you my computer screen because I have the cover for the first one
Okay.
pulled up. You tell me if you can see it.
I can see that.
Okay.
Cool.
Mike Duke.
That looks dope.
Amalgam.
Okay. Yeah. That
Yeah.
looks pretty cool.
You see that?
Yeah. Some sort of like astronaut running away from some
I see some
slug
tentacles.
tentacle beast. So this is not a hentai.
No, not a hentai.
Damn it.
I'll send you a pic. I've shared that one a while back, so it's no secret at this point. But the artist is a guy named Wendy Saber-Core. He does a lot of book covers, album covers, and stuff like that. The dude is amazing, man. And he's finished the second book cover for me, and I'm getting ready to give him my ideas for the third one. And he's been great to work with because I wrote down what my vision was for that cover, and he made it. I mean, when I got it the first time, it was like pretty much boom, perfect. I was like, dude, that is exactly the kind of thing I was, that was my vision. And I described it to him, and bam, he made it happen. And same thing with book 2. I gave him, what my ideas were, what I wanted, and bam, we had to like adjust some sizing on some things, afterwards. Just kind of, some little adjustments. But the dude is awesome at, if you give him, a detailed vision of what you're thinking, he can make it happen.
Hey, that's
He's
good.
amazing.
That's a good artist to have. All right.
So
Yeah.
nice.
So when do you have an idea when this series comes out?
I'm hoping that I can have book 1 out by the end of July, because I will be going to the Scares That Cares horror convention in Williamsburg. I've been there, but obviously I didn't have it last year, but I was there the 3 years before that, so this will be my fourth one.
That's the Brian
attending.
King thing, right? Scares That Cares?
Yeah, Brian King is always there. Joe Ripple is one of the main guys that helps put it on and run it. It's for they raise money and give it directly to some selected people who are fighting or survived cancer and have huge, bills or stuff like that. Or they've done it for burn victims as well, because Brian King suffered through that.
Yep.
A while back. And so they raise the money through, the convention and everything. And then they present the money directly to these selected, people that they're paying, that they have people that are on boards and stuff that throughout the year find and select people to help. Help
the Brian
out,
King's burn story. He put gasoline on a wood pile that he was going to burn or whatever, which never. If you're gonna play around gasoline, don't do that. Texas had a deep freeze not too long ago, right? I was getting pretty low on starter fuel, whatever, to light some wood to keep myself warm. I was thinking about playing around with some gasoline, but I thought about Brian Keane. I was like, nope, I don't want to get burned. I don't want to get burned like that. I'll use this eco-friendly starter fluid, which is horrible. It takes like half a bottle to light anything. Anyway, that's a whole aside. I don't know if anyone in the chat even knows what I'm talking about. Do you know who Brian Keane is, and do you know he got burned? Let me know. But
yeah,
Mike Duke, was great having you on Hard Talk Radio.
I had a blast, man. Thanks for having me.
I hope you had a good time. And ladies and gentlemen, if you made it this far, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share. Sharing's the big thing, really. And you guys take it easy. All right. Oh, and co-host and training Modern Medusa. How did she do? Did she do well?
Yeah.
Did she? Let us know in the comment section. It's between her and Mr. Beethoven Beowulf the fourth, whatever his name is. All right, Amadeus. Anyway,